Hi, this is Ken and Michelle Bass.
And you're listening to the Resilient Parenting Podcast. Rollin', rollin', rollin'.
Why are you singing that?
This episode.
Your doggy rolling?
Is rollin'.
Oh,
This episode is rollin'.
okay.
You know what? I
Yeah.
have a little extra pep to my step because it's warmer outside.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the question for
Yeah.
most Idahoans.
Yeah.
Is it spring? Or is it fake spring? Or is it fake spring?
Or is it early fake summer? Or is it fake
No
late
one has
winter?
ever heard of early fake summer.
It's warming
I'm
up.
just
It's
kidding.
getting better for getting outside and going walking. And we were kind of wondering, do you walk and listen to podcasts while you're doing that with your headsets?
I know I love to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that. You can ride your bike. I don't know if that's safe, though. Can you listen while you're riding your bike? Well, let us know.
Yeah.
Let us know where you're listening from. I listen a lot of times in my car, but now that it's nicer, I really do want to get outside. We could listen. You could listen to the podcast while you are out in your garden,
Mm-hmm.
or weeding or cleaning up.
You're suggesting
things.
I work while listening?
I was talking to the listeners, but you're
Okay.
volunteering.
No, I'm not.
No, I actually have some ideas
No.
for. Everybody heard it, Ken.
No,
everybody heard
no.
it. And you're right. There are so many things out in the yard that could be done.
Our next interview is coming up in just seconds.
You can't stop that. You can't mute me. This is not. This is not how this works. You see how he tried to do that?
Oh, man. Are we done?
Yeah. Okay.
And today we are chatting with Florina Ruvio. Did I say that correctly, Florina?
Yes.
Yeah, co-chair of Idaho's Thriving Families Safer Children's Coalition, and it's going to be a pleasure talking with you this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, we're so excited to have you join our podcast today. I was looking online at the Thriving Families Safer Children's Coalition website, and this is a national organization. Can you tell our listeners about it?
Yeah, so it's a national movement. It's partially funded by the Casey Family Programs, and the goal is to help families, really kind of help support families at like a systems level all the way down to the micro level to help prevent children from going into the foster care system. And so in Idaho, there's a group of folks from all over, from all different sections who work in like the juvenile justice system, health and welfare, different organizations, like different municipalities, all of that, so that we can work together to kind of help support families in whatever way that they need.
Oh, I love that so much. Prevention work is my heart. Like I love that. And I was looking at the guiding principles. It's partnering with lived experts, centering the work in communities, addressing issues of racial equity and disproportionality, and emphasizing upstream strategies for prevention, health promotion, and well-being. I just love all of that. So what is currently being done in Idaho?
Yeah. I think I just want to emphasize the focus really on bringing people in with lived experience. We definitely have a few of those, myself included. My mom and I have guardianship of my nephew. And so we are kinship care. And, because we took him on, that prevented him from going into the system, but we still have access to some of the resources that are available as well. But yeah, that's part of the reason that I'm the co-chair. I'm also very passionate about child abuse prevention and was happy to help and co-chair. Our focus here in Idaho is we're doing some work with some family resource centers around the state that Idaho Children's Trust Fund has helped fund to get started. including one in Nampa at the Hispanic Community Center. That one's fairly new, and so we're currently doing some work with them there to try and get that going, to get some parent listening groups together and really kind of help drive that work. And then we also have the community schools model that we help support as well. They're doing pretty well. It's under the United Way of Treasure Valley. And
Mhm.
so they have at least 50, I think, across the state. And they've done a really great job of just really helping those grow, including one that is here in Caldwell, where I live, where my nephew attended school. And it was such a great help for him because when we first got him, we put him in kindergarten. He was already behind because he was already past the age of kindergarten, but he caught up really quickly. I think really in part due to all of the support that he got there at the school. They also offered counseling after school there at the school. So, I think it's really helpful because it helps folks kind of address any kind of transportation gaps because it's just there at the school. And then it's also a place where children are already feeling safe so that, it's not causing any extra trauma or any kind of nervousness because it's there at the school.
So I am curious, you said that there are community resources and community schools all across the state. Do you know like different areas? Because we are all over the state of Idaho. So I'm sure there are listeners right now who are going, are they nearby us?
Yes, yeah. I mean, the community schools are really, I mean, they're pretty big. They're like I said, there's 50. And so
50.
yeah, there's some in North Idaho, there's some in or Southwest Idaho, Southeast Idaho. They're all over. So one of my favorite that's near and dear to my heart is American Falls, which is out towards Pocatello. They do a really great job. They have a community schools model. They have an old school building that they've converted that has folks from like the labor department, from WIC, from health and welfare. They like rotate out. They keep those offices open and then they have them come in so that families can just go to that building and they'll come in for one question and they're like, oh, while you're here, why don't you go visit the doctor? Or you can, go, like if you're looking for a job, there's a labor department, or if you're looking for food, we have someone who can help with that as well. So it's a really great little town, and they're really doing well, I think, with that model.
I love that. I believe Wilder School District has that as well. And I remember they would have different events where not only could kids come and learn about different programs, but they had free haircuts or they had, I believe St. Luke's came out and did some checks and maybe even dental. And now that I'm thinking about it, Morley Nelson also, I believe in Boise.
Yes, yeah.
Um, yeah, and then they have the community center where kids could go after school for after school programs and not just children, but also the teenagers. There was a teenager room set up specifically for kids after school, and that's all part of this model.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. They get support from United Way of Treasure Valley. They do like a meeting once a month with all the coordinators, and they kind of share resources, talk about what's working, what's not working. Marsing's another great example. They've got that entire hub built. They share it with the city council, so the city council has meetings there, but then they also use that space for like there's a food pantry in that area.
Mm.
They also have a preschool going out of there. They have all sorts of wonderful resources coming out of that one program. And they also invite folks like Terry Riley to come and do a mobile clinic. If it's just like for blood pressure checks or whatever it is that the community needs, it's just so wonderful to see.
You were mentioning on what works and what doesn't work many times. Can you give us examples of some of those things that have happened?
Sure. I mean, the community schools, they like to say if you've seen one community school, you've seen one community school. Everything is different. It's all based on the community. A lot of times when folks are talking, I think they want to invite like for example, they'll want to invite Spanish speaking folks and they're like, oh, well, we sent it out via email and nobody came. And so there's a conversation about like, okay, but where are you meeting these folks where they're at? Like, that's really important. If you want people to have information, make sure that you're giving it where they go. And sometimes that's on email, like sometimes that's on the radio. Like here in Treasure Valley, our radio station, our Spanish radio station is really popular. For example, at one point I worked at Idaho Public Television, and I just thought it was so great that I was working with Big Bird and all of the, and I went to tell my parents and they were like, oh, that's nice, like whatever. And then I got invited to the local Spanish radio station to talk about the work I was doing. And they thought I was just like the biggest deal. They were asking me all sorts of questions about Mata Vacas, who is like the local DJ, and like, what's he like? And they were like so proud about it. And I think that just really speaks to like what, again, like you got to meet people where they're at, where they're getting their information, and really kind of making sure that that's where you're at as well.
And that's so amazing. I never really thought about that. When you first said it, I was thinking, oh, I wonder if it was in Spanish, the actual flyer, the information, if it was in the language that is spoken and understood. But I didn't even think about that. It may completely be the wrong, the wrong approach.
Mhm.
So for those that are interested, who is this? Who is this aimed for? Like, is this for anyone? Anyone can use these services? Is there a certain criteria?
Yeah, so for the community schools, I mean, they are open to the community, but it's mainly targeted for like parents and children, right? Some of the events, like at Sacagawea Elementary, they do the trunk or treat in October, like a lot of elementary schools do, and that's when they have like the mobile health clinic and the library and like all these other organizations talking about the services that they offer. So it really is a great like blended model. I think it removes a lot of the stigma as well. Like everyone needs help sometimes. And that's one of the protective factors, right? The concrete needs. But I think we're just trying to really remove that stigma of asking for help or needing help, because there's no shame in that. Like everyone needs help sometimes. And the family resource model is really open to anyone as well. Like the one at the Hispanic Community Center is open to anyone there that needs to come in and ask questions. They have folks there all day, and they're answering questions from everything like, I don't understand this paperwork. Can you explain this to me, or can you help me fill this out? To like, I'm just looking for help with utilities, or I'm looking for a group to join. They have like a grandmother's group going right now where they come together and they have coffee and then they just chat, and it's just really great social interaction for those older folks.
All sounds amazing. And I know you had mentioned earlier about your own experience with your nephew. Can you tell a little bit about how that was for you and your family?
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, he was he was maybe like 2 or 3 when my mom and I started to take him quite regularly. Unfortunately, my brother suffered from addiction and he passed about 7 years ago. And so that was really rough. But even before he passed, we were asking him, like, please let us take care of him, because he didn't have a stable place to live or like a job. And his mother also wasn't doing well. She would leave him, like we would take him and then we wouldn't hear from her for months. And Idaho is really, they're really big on parent rights. And so despite the fact that she was leaving him and we wouldn't hear from her, there wasn't really much we could do, because the law said that he was left in a safe place. So she was still like doing her job, kind of, like as she didn't abandon him because she left him with us, basically. And so but eventually she just stopped showing up altogether, and so we applied for guardianship and got that. And it was really tough, because he'd been through a lot. He'd lost his father. He didn't know where his mom was, and so there was a lot of anger and a lot of, like, it was a big adjustment. There were times where he said his stomach hurt, and we figured out that that was because he wasn't used to being full. He didn't know what that meant, like because he was underweight. So we put him on the protein shakes to help him put on some weight, because he was so underweight. And it took some time for him to get used to like eating, but but now he's 13 and thriving and eats like a horse. So, but I really attribute like the resources there at the community school at Sacagawea Elementary to that because, the coordinator knew kind of our situation. She was checking in on us regularly. She helped us get support with the counseling. He still goes to counseling, but he's doing so much better. He's just really kind of grown and thrived, and it's been beautiful to see. And I've been an advocate of community schools ever since seeing it personally. I think it's just such a big help. And honestly, it's not that big of a lift, right? Like I think people overlook prevention all the time because it's not flashy or, something that you can really it can be difficult to measure, but I think that really what it's doing is breaking cycles. I know that my nephew, I know that he's going to be okay, right? And that he's been put on the right path and that he's doing much better than he would have been had he gone into the system or had like he not had family to have him or to take him in.
Wow. Thank you for sharing your story.
Now, if somebody is hearing this and they're relating or they know somebody that could relate, where do they go? Who do they talk to?
So for the community schools, they can look that up at in Idaho. It's Idaho Community Schools.
We'll double check and put that in the show notes.
Yes, yeah, I can send the link. And then there is a national movement of community schools, and that information is on the website as well. They can have access to the national website. And then as far as the like stuff with my nephew and things like that, I would just check your local. We looked up our like local laws and spoke to a lawyer because we weren't sure like how to navigate that. But the Department of Health and Welfare can also answer questions about how to process those things.
So we may also have listeners who maybe aren't in this situation, but are in a situation where maybe they could help, or they could volunteer, or maybe it's an organization that would like to be involved in some way. Is there a way for them to reach out and get involved, or what's the best avenue for that?
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, just reaching out to your local community school if you have one in the area. They're always looking for folks to volunteer and to help out. I would also, I know it's super difficult, but like being a CASA advocate is also a great thing to do where you go on to court on behalf of a child, like because you're there for their best interest. I think those folks just don't get enough recognition. That is a tough job. But if you have the heart for it, then I would recommend that as well. That makes such a big difference. And then also just considering being a foster family as well, if that's something that that you have the heart for.
Wonderful. Well, we will make sure to add all of those links in the show notes for all of the different areas of giving back. And thank you so much for giving us the gift of your interview today and sharing your story and all the amazing work that's being done across Idaho and nationally.
We appreciate it, Florina.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes. Take care.
Thank you as well.
This podcast is brought to you by the Idaho Children's Trust Fund,